Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's talk with Adelina Vlas on the newly opened exhibition, Haegue Emergence. Hi, Adelina.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Whenever we gather, we begin by considering where we are and the responsibilities we have as either guests or hosts on this territory and our responsibilities as treaty people. The AGO operates on land that is the territory of the Anishinaabe Nation and was also the territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant is an agreement between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Anishinaabe Three Fires Confederacy to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Toronto is also governed by a treaty between the federal government of Canada and the Mississaugas of the Credit Nation. So, Adelina, I'm so happy that you are joining us today to talk about this brand new exhibition. For folks watching us at home, I'm going to introduce Adelina very briefly, and then she's going to start. And when she's finished talking, we'll have some time for questions. You can ask the questions by using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So Adelina Vlas is Associate Curator of Contemporary Art of AGO. She's the Curator of Haegue Emergence. And before joining the AGO in 2014, she held curatorial positions at the Philadelphia Museum of Art and the National Gallery of Canada. At the AGO, she's curated a number of things, but perhaps most recently, other than Haegue, was Hito Charles, This is the Future, Valérie Vlas, Le Parlement des Invisibles, and Yayoi Kusama's Infinity Mirrors. Adelina, the show just opened October 1st. It takes up the entire 5th floor of the building. It is stunning, and I just want to encourage anyone who is perhaps joining us from Toronto, if they haven't seen it, to come to the gallery and see it. The AGO is open right now Thursdays through Sundays from 10:30 to 5 in a very socially distanced and safe way. I had a chance to see the exhibition. I wanted to congratulate you and the whole team of people at the gallery who put it together, because it's great. And I'm looking forward to your talk. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, and thank you everyone for joining us. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon here in Toronto, and it's a real pleasure to be able to come to you, even in a virtual format, and to share some of the works and the ideas behind the exhibition Emergence Haegue. And this is the first time that Haegue has an exhibition, a survey exhibition of her work in North America. An exhibition of this scope has not been attempted. There are over 80 works installed as part of the exhibition spanning the last 25 years. And the project of this ambition, of course, is not possible without the support of many, many people, and of course not without the talented team here at the AGO, which I would like to acknowledge. So I will start by saying that this talk is supported by the Consulate General of the Republic of Korea in Toronto, also known as the Korean Consulate, and that the exhibition was made possible thanks to the generosity of a community of supporters. We want to thank our presenting partner, Max Mara. Thanks to our lead supporter, Eleanor and Francis Shen. And generous support was provided by Lonti Ebers and the Korea Foundation. Generous assistance came from Cecily and Robert Bradshaw, the Schuley Foundation, Lisa Mauer and Andrew Scheiner, and generous collective support came from Women's Art Initiative. Contemporary programming at the AGO is supported by Canada Council for the Arts, and additional support was provided by Mr. Sang Moon Kwon. Of course, I mentioned that this is an ambitious project, and you see here a list of all the lenders. I will not name them individually, but I would like to acknowledge their generosity and in sharing those works with us. And you see that at the end of that list, it's the artist herself, Haegue Yang. And I would like to acknowledge the fact that Haegue has been an amazing partner and a real kind of team member over the last few years as we planned this exhibition. And she's currently in Korea, in Seoul, and I think it's really late there, so I don't think she's able to see this, but I'm sure she'll be watching it at some point. So As we start talking about this exhibition, I would like to really kind of outline the origins of the project. And what you're looking at on the screen now is a work called Sonic Dance Twin Brother that was acquired by the Art Gallery of Ontario in 2014, the same year it was made. It's part of a series of sculptures known as sonic sculptures that Haegue has developed over time, and quite a few of them are represented in the exhibition. So this gives you a sense of the history that Haegue has with the institution. She's not unknown to us. This isn't the first time that we've worked together. This acquisition was really the first instance. But I don't think she's also someone who's not known to Canadian audiences. Since 2002, she has participated in many group exhibitions across Canada, in Vancouver, Montreal, and most recently Saskatoon. And in 2008, she created a work for the exhibition, If We Can't Get It Together, at the Power Plant, organized by the Power Plant Art Gallery. And the title of that work was Domestics of Community, Toronto version. So she's someone who has a history with Canada and with Toronto in particular. And I think it's really appropriate in a way that we here in Toronto get to see this survey exhibition that's been in the making for over 2 years. So for those of you who have maybe had a chance to see the exhibition, this is really the entry point, the first room that visitors get to see when they approach, when they enter the 5th floor. And it's a platform that houses a collection of sculptures, a series of sculptures, a selection of works made between 2011 and 2020. And the intention of this presentation was really to provide an introduction to the visual language of the artist and to display some of the materials as well as some of the families of works that she's developed over time, and particularly over the decades we are concerned with in this exhibition. It also playfully suggests the concept of the exhibition, which is that of emergence. And emergence is a concept that a concept that really comes from social, natural, and social, natural sciences, and also economics, where an entity, a complex entity, acquires characteristics and behaviors that individuals that make that entity do not have on their own. So we try to apply that concept of emergence to a survey exhibition and try to understand what happens when works from a different period of creation come together to, as a whole, to create this portrait of an artist oeuvre. So here you have kind of details of that platform, and we have light sculptures and some of the intermediates that are present there. And I thought that this selection of sculptures not only introduces the concept of emergence, but also makes us think about exactly that, what it means for works to be sitting next to each other in this context and in the exhibition context. And as I was working on the exhibition, I started thinking about the emergent quality of present in Haegue's work over the last 3 decades. And it so happens that this emergent quality of the work is very much present in the exhibition too. So I would like to today to kind of walk you through not only the exhibition, but also a series of other works that are not represented here that inform her way of working and this emergent impulse, what I like to call the emergent impulse. So one of the first moments following that introduction is this room that we title Cabinet of Formative Works. And it's really the earliest representations of Haegue's work. They date back to the 1990s. This is a time when Haegue, after graduating with her bachelor degrees from the Seoul National University, moves to Frankfurt, Germany to attend the renowned Städteschule. And it's during this period that she really starts absorbing some of the conceptual traditions of Western Europe and looks at the practices that have developed there since the Second World War. So she studies with Georg Harold. Harold was a very well-known figure in Germany and a particularly idiosyncratic artist, and she learns from him exactly this sense of idiosyncrasy and how to create work that lives in multiple worlds in terms of the materiality. And we see her here experimenting with various materials. This display case it's also indicative of this emergent impulse that I mentioned, because we see here from a very early stage, Haegue chooses to gather things together, objects together, her works, and display them as an entity. And the anthology of Haegue archives, this display case, is something, it's an object that no longer existed prior to this exhibition. It was a display case that was part of the school's, I guess, school's art school furniture inventory. And we here, as part of the exhibition at the AGO, recreated it based on photographic documentation. So it's the first time that this body of this gathering of works is shown as it was originally shown in 1998. And what you see in the display case are various sculptures and objects, as well as lacquer paintings. And we see how Haegue is historicizing her own practice at a very early point in her career, but also makes a statement that is very much aligned with the institutional critique, right? When you're using a museum type display to show work, it's also about the criticality involved in becoming part of that conversation. But what is interesting, of course, is that at this very early point in her career, as she's introduced to a new way of art making, she very clearly and confidently makes a statement about her herself, her own self, her own sense of self-historization, and also her own ambition to follow in the steps of artists who can have almost like this type of archive on view in a museum. Another work that dates to the earlier part of Haegue's career is a work that is not in the AGO exhibition, but again, I think it signals this impulse for gathering works together, for making them emerge as a part of a presentation. And the story of Storage Piece is quite unique, because it's really circumstances that pushed Haegue to come up with this idea of the storage piece. And what you see here is really artwork that she made over a period of time. And she was faced with a situation where she had to leave her studio, leave her, and had no way of managing this inventory of work. And as she was, at the same time, she was invited to participate in an exhibition, she decided to package everything and present it at this storage piece. So what you see on that palette is our actual artworks, soft wrapped and in boxes, that then collectively become the storage piece, right? And in a way, she finds a very creative solution to a storage problem, while at the same time is able to fulfill this desire to be in an exhibition and present new work in an exhibition. And what is interesting about Storage Piece, and it has been presented multiple times since, as you can see, it's been acquired by the Haegue collection in Berlin, and is that those individual works still exist as individual works, and they can be taken out of the storage piece and displayed as individuals, but they can also be presented packaged, wrapped up the way they are. And some exhibitions have even contextualized the piece by unwrapping the works and having this process of made public for the duration of the exhibition. So I think this is another good example of how those kind of emergent impulses are present in Haegue's work. But it's interesting to see that the first example, the anthology, was such an intentional gesture, while with Storage Piece, we see something that is more maybe accidental. It's something that is motivated by circumstances outside Haegue's control, but nevertheless, the creative solution that is generated presents this emergent, has this emergent quality to it. And this biographical aspect of the work is something that we're going to encounter as I talk about the work, and is present with many of the works in the exhibition, and it's something that becomes important as you will see, particularly after 2006. And 2006 is a really important year in Haegue Yang's career, and it's a year that is well represented in the exhibition. But I would like to talk about a series of installations that Haegue has developed over between 2006 and 2009, known as a series of vulnerable arrangements. And there are multiple versions, and each version is titled after the location where it was originally presented. And I would like to talk about the concept of maybe what I like to call sensorial emergence, because it's something that, as I said, is present with some of the works in the exhibition, but it's also something that is very particular to Haegue's practice. And the series of vulnerable arrangements, the title itself has an emotional charge to it, right? It talks about a state of vulnerability, and it's a state that Haegue finds she has experienced through her lifetime as a subject moving between countries, continents, cultures, languages. And she describes the state of constantly trying to belong to a new place as being in a state of vulnerability, and it's something that we all can, in a way, identify with, especially here in Toronto, where so many people come from other places or have been born in other places and have this dual sense of dual citizenship or multiple citizenship, but also dual or multiple sense of belonging to different countries and cultures. So this sense of vulnerability, as I said, is expressed through those multisensorial installations, and you see here in this the first in the series the various elements that are brought together to create an experience that is not just visual, but it's also one where we feel the warmth from the heat, the temperature element. We feel the air from the fan. We feel the humidity, the light, and there's a scent element, and it's something that is presented here for the first time, but it's something that Haegue has been using in her work since. And those elements are all there to create a really kind of full experience of an emotional stage, right? And what we also see here for the first time is Haegue's use of Venetian blinds. And like with storage piece, we see her using this material out of necessity. Here it's an instance where she was trying to create within this environment, a multisensorial environment, a projection room for one of her video essays. And the way to do that happened to be by using Venetian blinds. And of course, since the Venetian blinds have become a signature element in a lot of her works, and they're very present in the exhibition in various bodies of work across time. So we see here a language emerging, but also an emergence of sensorial experience that is very much characteristic of Haegue's work. And these are other installation views of the same work, which it's not in the exhibition. Another critical moment and crucial moment in Haegue's career is the exhibition Sadong 30. It's a self-organized exhibition that she presented in this location, the address of which was Sadong 30. And you see that the credit for the image states the exact location in Incheon. It's kind of outside central Seoul, and where the international airport is also located. And this house had personal significance. The actual physical space had personal significance for Haegue because is the house where her grandparents lived, right? But when she went to create this experience of Sadong 30, you see kind of how zooming into the physical space, we see the state of the building being a little bit out of sync with what's happening in the neighborhood. We see those newer buildings where development, gentrification possibly happening, but this house is kind of still there. And inside you see the very decrepit state it is in, and it provides this backdrop for various elements, including sensorial elements, very much like version Utrecht, where there's lights, and we see sculptural elements, quite a few of them. And we see this clock also with the scrambled numbers on it, and hang at a very low height. And this exhibition really set the tone for a lot of the installations that followed, because by being in this space that has such a strong personal meaning for her, this emotional state that she's trying to capture with the installation becomes really important in her own understanding of how to represent it. And here in the AGO exhibition, we have what has become the echo of this original installation in Sadong. It's called After Image. So later in 2006, Haegue returns to Europe and participates in a group exhibition in Amsterdam, and she's trying to recreate the experience of Sadong. And the echo of that experience is recreated also here at the AGO, and you see kind of how some of the elements of that original presentation have materialized themselves in different ways. There's a fan, there is a scent, and the scent is the scent is campfire. There's a Venetian blind. The bulb, the heat bulbs, that there's this, as you enter it, you feel the air coming from the fan, you feel the heat coming from those red bulbs. There are strobe lights there, and this kind of uneven, with the materials that create the uneven ground are also kind of an echoing of the architecture in the house in Sadong. And there are elements in this installation that reference the original installation, and we have the clock on the wall, this Persian in Sadong, as well as the fridge. And the fridge has bottled water. And if it wasn't for the COVID situation, visitors would have been invited to help themselves with water if they felt thirsty. So there's this other kind of sensorial quality to the experience. And in the original installation, the water was there because this being a really like a private space, not an art space, there was nobody there to welcome visitors. So for those who ventured to Sadong 30, the water was there as a gesture of welcoming and comforting one, especially in the hot summer days. So again, we see an emergence of elements that reference this experience of Sadong 30, but also create a sensorial experience for the visitors with this very kind of charged emotionally charged framework. And a few more details. So when I showed the images of Sadong 30, you probably noticed in one of the rooms there was, and maybe I'll just go back to refresh your memory. You see the first image on the left. It has this drying rack that it's covered in a blue, it's wrapped in blue fabric. And this object was intended to signify the presence of life in this building. And I would like to talk about another concept that is quite present and strongly present in Haegue's work, and is that concept of seriality, and how objects such as the Doni de Diable and the blue one in Sadong was azur, so non-unfoldables, blue, and how so this object was made in 2006, but a few years later, Haegue returns to the form, and the folding rack is an object that has fascinated her. And in the after image installation, you see kind of on the wall a series of 15 prints. It's a work called Gymnastics of the Foldable, where again we see a naked, a drying rack photographed in various positions as if it's doing kind of its morning stretches. And it's this kind of interest in domestic objects with anthropomorphic quality that emerges at this point, and we see it expressed further with the non-unfoldable series. And we see kind of how Haegue thinks of seriality, how those objects exist in families, and how we start with one and then a whole series follows. This is a finite series. It's ended in 2010. And we have almost all of the objects in the series except one as part of the AGO presentation. And again, I think it shows how this concept of emergence is very much present also in how Haegue thinks about her families of works. And we see that not just with the non-Depiadas, but also with the other families that were present at the beginning on that platform, you know, the sonic sculpture, the intermediate, the light sculptures. And this, just a few more details, and also you get to see some of the architectural details in the exhibition. And this sense of seriality also then develops into works being presented with multiple components, but as an entity, right? And we have here one of the, again, early series of vulnerable arrangements, version Soul from 2006, but recreated in 2017, also part of the exhibition here at the Art Gallery of Ontario. And those are seven sculptures, individual sculptures of different heights, using IV stands. And I think one element that was clear kind of from the introduction and with the selection of sculptures was also this relationship that those sculptures have with the human body. And I think with the IV stand, that connection is made very clear, and we see it here kind of even more so with the different heights. And also there's a sensorial component with, besides the light, the fan in the corner. And this kind of way of thinking where individual objects come together to create a work continues to be explored by Haegue through time. And in 2008, we see kind of a new body of work emerging that looks at appliances and domestic appliances and domestic environments in general. And I think that, again, that sense of biography and autobiography at times being a source of inspiration, it becomes very, very clear, as is the idea again of multisensoriality. And what we see with those individual sculptures that, you know, with each series, there's this, you know, one object that begins it, as it was with non-Indepiadas, and then we see kind of groupings of them emerge. And I think that the appliances sculptures are the most fascinating in that regard, because indeed they are a reflection of a particular domestic space, as in this case it's 5 Rue Saint-Benoît, and this is the address where Marguerite Duras lived in Paris. And Marguerite Duras is a writer and filmmaker, French writer and filmmaker, who looms large in Haegue Yang's work. And the reason for that is because Marguerite Duras was born in the French Indochina and left Asia to come and live in Paris when she was 18. And when she lived at this address, so it was one of the early characters, kind of in real life characters, who shared a similar kind of autobiographical trajectory as Haegue, and being kind of belonging to two worlds. And this address in particular is where Marguerite Duras lived during the war and the Second World War, and she was part of the French resistance. And this is a space where, this is an apartment where she planned and organized her resistance activities, but also where she nursed her husband when he returned back from a death camp, while at the same time living with her lover under the same roof. So Haegue is very much interested in those complexities of the domestic space and how they are reflected through those objects and through the kind of emotional temperature that they bring in their groupings, right? And we see the different components: the boiler, the shower, the gas stove, radiator, and so on. And they all make us think of this space as something that is so defining, and especially for someone like Haegue and any person who has an aspiration to find a home and belong when they are kind of in between places and constantly kind of moving around. And here's another work similar to Rue Saint-Benoît, and this is the doubles and couple version Turin. And this work is actually here at the AGO in the exhibition. And this is even more personal. It's the two doubles and couples are the appliances that so the couples that you see throughout on the gallery, in the gallery, on the wall, and on the floor, are the various appliances from her two apartments at the time, one in Seoul and one in Berlin. So kind of the two sides of her life joining together through the that kind of physicality of the appliances in her home. And each of them is, as you see, the Venetian blinds are there, the lights, the temperature of the lights is different as each of them, as you move around the space and you find that, that connection between them. And another object that is kind of related to those the two previous works is Salim, and this is really probably the most complex multisensorial installation in the exhibition, because it contains so many, as you can see in the description, it contains so many elements, and it's performative in its own right, and it's based on the size, and the frame is based on the size and the architectural dimensions of Haegue Yang's kitchen in her studio in Berlin at the time. And again, we see here this domestic space being presented to us with those associative sensorial elements, and we see them emerging again to create an experience. And there's so many, again, references to the kitchen as a space not only for the preparation of food and the life-sustaining activity, but it's also a space where one plans and organizes life. And she's referencing, of course, again, a figure like Marguerite Duras and the importance of that domestic space in creating resistance. And finally, the work that I would like to discuss, that's also in the exhibition and also in a way embodied this concept of emergence, is Boxing Ballet. Is really one of the most stunning works Haegue has made. It's from 2013, 2015. And what we see here are those 6 figures that are inspired by Oskar Schlemmer's triadic ballet from 1922, kind of a Gesamtkunstwerk in its own right, choreography, costume design, stage design, music, everything kind of coming together to create a sense of experience. And here we see Haegue translating those amazing costumes into those sculptural forms and presenting them on this stage, boxed inside the gallery, kind of this translation between the stage and the performative space to the museum space. And those sculptures are activated, they are moved on a regular basis on Saturdays during exhibition hours, and they add this other element of the sonic quality of the plated bells as they are moved around on that spiral trajectory marked on the floor. And here just a few more images of the individual works. So at this point, I am ready to look at some questions, and but not before. I also would like to bring to your attention a different kind of emergence that's going to happen. When I started this presentation, I showed you the first work that entered the collection in 2014, and I think that the legacy of the exhibition is trying to move the slide, but it's not. Okay, there we go. So in conjunction with the exhibition, there's a different kind of emergence happening where a new work is joining the collection. And this is a work that we commissioned directly from Haegue in conjunction with the exhibition. And it's a work that responds to the architecture of the space. This is the Tannenbaum sculpture atrium, and is a space, as you can see, that physically reveals the history of the building. We see on the right the Grange House, which is historically at the foundation of the museum, the land that was given to the city for the museum to be built on. On the left, there is this gray wall that is part of the original 1919 building, and then the wood paneling that you see at the back, and it's also replicated outside of the frame of the photograph on the west side of the building, is the visual language of Frank Gehry and the most recent architectural addition to Diageo. So Haegue was really fascinated with this visible presence of our history being shown so clearly. And the title of the work is Woven Currents, Confluence of Parallels. And you see there the credit line for it. But another aspect of the work that is really kind of responds to the local context and to the AGO and here our history is that when she spent 2 weeks last summer being an artist in residence and did a lot of research into the collection, looked around, took tours with other curators, particularly the curator of Indigenous art, Wanda Nanibush, as well as Georgiana Wolyaric, the curator of Canadian art. And she learned about this treaty belt, the 2-row wampum belt. And she was really struck by the design of the belt because it's so kind of minimalist in its aesthetic, but it so clearly declares the intention of the Haute-Michonnes. This treaty was between the Haute-Michonnes and the Dutch in 1637, outlining this desire to have to live next to each other in harmony and non-interference, with the 2 blue lines clearly stating kind of that those individual trajectories. And of course, this inspiration is translated in this beautiful work that lives so comfortably in the atrium. And we see those 2 elements, those 2 white long blinds touching the ground and making that connection with the building and the land itself, which is what was agreed on in the original treaty that served as an inspiration. So I am going to have a look at the Okay, so somebody's asking if I can talk a bit more about the activations of soloist vehicles and boxing ballet. What specifically is being activated? Yes, so boxing ballet is being activated every Saturday between 2 and 4 p.m. when there is one facilitator who enters the space and gently moves the sculptures that are in the room and engages in a kind of dance with them, a very gentle dance with them. So you get to experience the sonic quality of the sculptures as they get moved around. Soloist vehicles, I did not include an image here, but the soloist vehicles are sculptures made replicating some of the soloist structures, modular structures, and they are made using metal frames and white Venetian blinds, and they have multiple handles and require multiple performers or multiple facilitators to move them around. So those are happening on a set schedule that is almost like every other Saturday, again between 2 and 4, and those precise dates are listed on our website. And the soloist vehicles, there are 2 of them in the exhibition in one of the large galleries, and they get activated one at a time. So there's a question. I saw the Confluence of Parallel work, Woven Currents Confluence of Parallels work at the AGO this week, but I'm curious why they're both blue, white, and purple colors. I think that, yes, the color scheme was inspired by the 2-row wampum treaty, and the wampum shells sometimes have this purple color and sometimes have a deeper blue, almost like cobalt blue. And I think that by choosing both color was a way of reflecting that kind of dual quality of the shells. Somebody is asking about the new mural commission, and yes, indeed, there is a second commission that is part of also the exhibition. And I think this is the challenge of the times we live in. The exhibition, of course, was planned before the pandemic, and it was originally going to live in multiple spaces throughout the building. as it happens, those spaces are not yet open to the public. And the mural that is mentioned here is a wallpaper that is installed currently in the south entrance of the museum. So this is the entrance facing Grange Park. And it was a space that Haegue became quite familiar with last summer when she was an artist in residence in the education center on the concourse level. And it became very clear to her that it was a very well-used space. Lots of people, especially in the summer, student groups are using them. And so she worked collaboratively with Connie Purcell, who's the designer and is a designer and artist that's based in Los Angeles, and was also the designer for the exhibition publication, which will come out later this fall. And together they, he also visited during the residency, and together they created a wallpaper called Tectonic Undulations, a Food for the Wilderness. And the motifs, the visual motifs for the wallpaper, which is covering most of the south entrance walls, is really the history of our mineral extraction, or our engagement here in Canada with the mining industries, and kind of the consequences for the land, and again a very real connection with the context here, but also a reflection on the post-human and pre-human reality of the land. And some of the visual motifs are inspired by the classics of The Mountains and the Sea, which is a Chinese mythology book. And those motifs are the ones representing kind of the pre-human. And there are lots of references to gems and minerals from the crystals from the ROM collection, and some architectural elements from the old City Hall here in Toronto. So that wallpaper will remain on view for beyond the exhibition day, so January 31st, because we would like to make sure that our audiences will get a chance to experience it. There are a few questions about Haegue's kind of presence around this exhibition. And of course, in an ideal world, or in a normal world, she would have been here for the opening, for the installation. Right now, we are planning a Zoom talk with her on December 2nd, and that's when you'll have the opportunity to hear her talk about the exhibition. There's also a question about if Haegue Yang filmed or videoed her installations. Yes, for all of you who want to learn more about the work, either the work in the exhibition or the work that is not in the exhibition, Haegue Yang is extremely prolific. She has a very well designed website that I recommend you look up, because she has documented most of her work, and some of it in video, and it gives you a good, and it's organized either alphabetically or chronologically, so you can follow it in the order of how it developed. Yeah, so I think I answered most of your questions. I would like to thank you all for joining us and encourage you to come and visit the exhibition if you're in Toronto. We're open Thursday to Sunday, and the exhibition will be up until January 31st, 2021. Thank you.